Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here with another video for my mini albums where I record and keep track of all the books that I read in 1 year. Now this is for the month of February, and before I turn the recorder on, the very first time I had stamped out a whole bunch of little coffee mugs, and I just cut them out and then I just stamped some numbers for the number of books that I had read in February and March. Now in this video I'll just do February, and then the next video next Monday will be for the month of March. Okay, so I'd fallen a little behind with my album, just because I went on vacation and then I got sick, so I had to do a little bit of catch up. So I just printed the pictures for all the books for February and March, and then I just kind of did it in one big session that I did all my books. Now for the month of February, I read 9 books. Now what happened was, because I was going on vacation, I wanted to get my books that I had read in January done before I left. So I had done the video a few days before, and in that part of the album I had put that I had finished Kiss of Deception, because I only had like 100 pages left to read, and normally I read 150 pages a day, so I figured I was going to have that book done before I left. But with having to get ready and having a whole bunch of stuff to do, I didn't get that book read. So you'll see at one point I'm going to take it out of the sleeve and I'm going to put it in the correct order of when I finished it. Because I only had 100 pages left, I didn't want to bring it on the trip just to read 100 pages, so I left it home and I finished it once I got back. I guess I could have just left it where it was in the album, but I really want the albums to be in the order that I read the books. So let's get back to what I did. So I cut out all those little coffee mugs, I stamped the number for the books. Then I went and grabbed one of my Project Life kits. I found some matching cards for all the books that I read. I always grab one 4x6, and that's where I put down my TBR. Because I do like to see how many books I was intending on reading and how many I read. And a little spoiler for March, but March I had no TBR written down, and that was probably my worst month of reading since I started reading. And I think for me, I just need that accountability. I need that, this is how many you want to read. And then I seem to work, or in any part of my life, if I have a list and I need to cross things off that list, it works much better for me. I work much better if I have goals and lists and things that I want to do. Which brings me up to my YouTube channel. And I find if it's structured, it works better for me. So this is what is going to happen, or I'm going to try to make happen in the next few months. So on Mondays, it's going to be like where I'm going to put stuff like this, like my mini album, or maybe some book hauls, nothing very specific, or I could just do a regular page. Then on Wednesdays, I'm going to do some diamond painting. So every Wednesday, I'll be working on the same diamond painting until it's done. And then on Fridays, I'll do some scrap and chats. So some of them will be pre-recorded, so I'll just put it up on Fridays, and then some other times I'll do some live, and the same with the whip and chat. Sometime I'll try to do maybe a live video, and then some other times it'll just be pre-recorded stuff. I want to try and get a ton of stuff done, both in my diamond painting and both in my scrapping. I need to get a lot of pages done this year because I have a ton of pictures that I need to scrap. And I want to be a little bit more consistent here on YouTube. So I think by having sort of a schedule, it's going to help me stick to it, the same as doing a TBR and then sticking to it. Okay, now for this mini album, I did take an iris tray or iris container, and I put what I wanted to use for this specific project. So I only have a little bit of die cuts, 3 or 4 sticker packs that are normally for planners, but I found that this was a great way to use those little sticker books. I also use them in my scrapbooking, but I kind of dedicate those for my album for the year. So I just go through and I just find either it's little die cuts or stickers and just make some embellishment clusters and just give myself enough room to do a little bit of journaling to talk about the book that I read. Now let's talk a little bit about each book that I read this month. Okay, so I read a total of 9 books in the month of February. And the first one that I finished was My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologies by Frederick Bachman. And that book I gave 3 stars. I've read quite a few of Frederick Bachman's books, and that's probably my least favorite. I mean, I still wanted to finish it. It was funny because only some parts of the book really kept my attention, and it was about this little girl and that, you know, her grandmother passes away and she has a bunch of letters to bring to different people in her life where her grandmother sends her regards and apologies. And there was a little bit of magical realism, and I think that's the part that really threw me out of the story a lot of times, was that bit. But I still appreciated the story. It was still, you know, I wanted to finish it. It just wasn't my favorite. The second book I read was The Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And that was the first Taylor Jenkins Reid's that I didn't give a full 5-star, but I gave it 4.5. And the only reason I didn't give it a 5-star is because it's a short story and I just wanted more. I wanted to know more about these characters and, you know, to have more story. So this is about a woman who finds out that her husband is having an affair because she finds a letter that proves it, and she decides to contact the husband of the woman that is having the affair, and the story develops from there. Again, I just wish that I could have had more on the story, but it was still really good. Now, the next book I finished was actually, you know, the last book I said I finished in January but didn't finish it. It was The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, and this is about a princess who runs away the day that she's supposed to marry a prince, and 2 people follow her. One's the assassin, one is the prince, and you don't know which is who. And it's really good. 4.5, 4.75. Really love that story. The next book I finished was Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. This was the end of a trilogy, and it was 5-star for me. I love the characters in this book, totally immersed in that world. I think I will read whatever Cassandra Clare writes. I just love her books. Now, the next book that I finished was Famous in a Small Town by Emma Mills. She's another author that I really like. This was probably not one of my favorite books from her. I gave it 3.75, which is still a good rating. It really reminded me of Dress Code for Small Towns that I read last year and enjoyed. So this is a character-based story. So there's not a lot to the plot, but it's about a group of friends, which I really enjoy, and they're trying to raise enough money for their band to be able to go to a competition. So just a sweet story, and I enjoyed it. I will read whatever Emma Mills writes. I just really enjoy her stories. Now the next book that I read after that is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is a historical fiction, World War II, but instead of, you know, being completely focused on the war, it is focused on the women that are left behind and how what they had to go through and what, you know, they had to cope with being left behind and the stuff that they went through. and their role in the war. It was so good. That was a 5-star. I really enjoyed that book. The next book I read was The Queen of Hearts by Kimmery Martin. This is a contemporary that has two timelines, the past and the present, and the event unfolds and you find out what happened in the past, this is how it's affecting the present. And another thing that I really liked about it, it was a medical drama. It really reminded me of like Grey's Anatomy or Chicago Med, and I really enjoyed that book. I gave it 4 stars. Now the next book I read is More Than We Can Tell by Bridget Kemmerer. Now this is the companion novel to Letters to the Lost that I read last month or the month before. I think it was in January, and I absolutely loved it. And as soon as I found out that there was a second book, I had to order it. This is based on one of the characters that was sort of a sidekick in the first book. His name was Rev, and this is his story. And in the first book, I absolutely loved him, and I'm so glad that we got a second book that kind of tells his story. So again, this is a contemporary character base. Loved it. It was a 5-star for me. And Bridget Kemmerer just released another book, and I've already purchased it. It's called A Curse So Dark and Lovely. That one is a trilogy, I believe, so I'm gonna wait till there's more books that are out before I start reading it, but I'm definitely going to be reading more of her books. Now the last book I read in February was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This at the time was the newest book that she had out, and I kept it for last. I absolutely love it. This is a book about the 1960s, 70s, and she is a actress, and it's all about her and her 7 husbands. And you know, she contacts a newspaper or a magazine and says, I want to give you my story about me selling some gowns, and I want this specific journalist to come. And come to find out, what she really wants is to give her life story, and we don't know why she picked that specific journalist or writer, but that all becomes clear as you read, you know, the story. Taylor Jenkins Reid, as far as I'm concerned, can do no wrong. I love absolutely all her books, and this was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. If you have a chance to pick it up and read it, all of her books, I would definitely do so. And that's it. That's going to complete everything that I read in February. And next Monday, we will go through the books that I read in March. I want to thank you so much for watching. Bye.